Aaron. Okay, we're live streaming now in the Facebook group. Oh wait.
Woohoo! Look at me playing with filters.
Okay, so everyone, we are live with Richelle Claiborne. Oh, and here's Voice America getting ready to go live on our radio show, Women Thriving Unapologetically. Were you able to find a poem?
Kinda.
Do you want to share one or not share one?
Yeah, I can share it.
Okay.
I just have to bring it up on my screen.
Okay.
I'll be reading it. I won't be. I won't have it memorized.
Oh, okay. Should I ask which one it is?
You haven't heard it yet. It's actually one about my daughter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's sweet. I found that I can actually be sweet sometimes. So different in my poetry than what I'm used to.
Inspiration comes from many different things. Hi there. Is this Gabe? I don't hear you. Voice America.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
How you doing today, Lynsie?
I'm doing well.
Good. Yeah, this is Matt. All right. So everybody's in. Is it just you and Richelle today?
Yes.
Go ahead and do some quick.
Space is not big enough for another woman besides Richelle.
All right. Just do a quick sound check. Lynsie, go ahead and count back from 5 for me once.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Good. Sound loud and clear. And Richelle, go ahead and do the same.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Perfect. You're both sounding good. So we are good to go there. I did send a hello over on the chat. Did that come through to you?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Then we're set to go. We still have about 2.5 minutes till showtime.
Okay. So, how are you feeling? I mean, you're like, this is nothing to you. Like, I'm always nervous.
Oh, yeah. I'm just talking to my friend. And there's going to be some people listening. I don't care. It's just you and me at a Chinooka celebration.
I was thinking about that. I was like, oh my God. I was telling Laura that the other day. I'm like, oh, she just rolled her eyes. Like,
so funny.
I'm so worldly.
You are. Don't let anyone tell you different.
Yeah.
Let me bring up this poem.
I always get this weird thing in my throat right before.
Oh. Got my agua just in case.
Well, you're brave to have some carbonation. If I did, I'd be like belching.
Oh no. So the trick is I opened it yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So it still has that lovely freshness, but it's not as bubbly.
Yeah. So I should let everyone's listening to our conversation in the Facebook Live, but
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So this is the behind the scenes of a radio show, and we're just prepping before we get started at 10:02. And so if anyone has questions for Richelle, I should hit record. I have this thing every time I forget. So yes, if anyone has questions for Richelle after the live ends, we'll just hang out in the Facebook group for a little bit and see if there's any questions that Richelle can answer, or we can just continue our conversation if we feel like there was something we couldn't fit into this hour, which there always is more. Always. Yeah.
I don't remember if I asked you this question. I can't say bad words, right?
I mean, you can.
Okay.
We just probably don't want to do every other sentence.
Oh, no. I was thinking about one of the poems has one bad word in it.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
No, I mean, it is my show.
But it is me. Have you met me?
Just about showtime. So I'm going to go ahead and send some feed your way. All right. Have a good show.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Management.
Welcome to Women Thriving Unapologetically with Lynsie McKeown.
Over the next hour, you will hear raw, honest, and inspiring conversation between Lynsie and her guests, discussing how to thrive, live joyfully, and abundantly in spite of life's challenges. Now, here is your host, Lynsie McKeown.
Hello, and welcome to Women Thriving Unapologetically on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. I'm your host, Lynsie McKeown, and I'm very excited to be here today. We have yet another phenomenal guest with us. But before we bring this amazing woman on air, let's take a moment just to connect, because when we are more connected to one another, we're able to fully listen and be present. So wherever you are, if it's safe, close your eyes and just bring your awareness into your heart space. And if you want, you can even place your hand on your chest. And the simple act of bringing your hand to your heart immediately helps us connect to this deep abode of our spiritual heart. And let's just take several rounds of breath so that we can feel the chest rise and fall with each breath in and each breath out. Bringing breath, inspiration into the heart, and quieting ourselves so that perhaps we can feel and sense or hear the inspiration that wants to come from the heart space. The inspiration perhaps to tell your own story and be your own muse. What would you tell if given the opportunity? What would your story be? And then just simply take another deep breath in and out. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes and making your way back. So today we're talking about how to make your voice heard. And, do you believe that you have a story to tell, that there are songs to be sung and voices to be heard about your life, your amazing life that you have lived, and the passions that are deep within your heart? And how do you draw that inspiration forward? And so today's guest, Richelle Claiborne, is an amazing woman that I get the supreme honor of speaking with. She is a singer, a songwriter, and a poet. And Richelle is deeply passionate about life and the ability to celebrate our freedom. And she does all of this through her own storytelling and her unique way of doing that. So let's please welcome this amazing woman to the show. Welcome, Richelle.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Of course. I have known Richelle for, has it been decades now? I don't even know. Time is moving.
I'm timeless, so I have
Timeless,
no
okay.
idea what that means.
Oh, I love this woman so much. She always has something sweet to say and brings it back home. So Richelle grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia. She's a native to this area, and she has performed up and down the East Coast of the United States as a singer, actress, and poet. In addition to being a performer, she's a mama, a wife, a caretaker, a foodie.
Yes.
And also a recent addition to the board of directors at the Haven, which is an amazing organization here in Charlottesville that is a multi-resource day shelter that endeavors to end homelessness in the greater Charlottesville area, which is such a powerful mission.
Yeah.
They've had amazing success already.
Well, my work at the Haven is really just a passion about people having space that they can call their own, where they can be themselves. In a city like Charlottesville that has so much money, why are there people who don't have a home?
Yeah.
Why is there homelessness in a town that so many resources? So my attempt to, take on that fight as a board member is relatively new, but I've been having a good time getting to learn more about my role and more about the guests there and how we can be of service, not just coming in saying, well, this is what I want you to do. This is what I think should happen, but really listening. And just like I don't expect for you to come into my house and tell me what I need to do in my kitchen, right? Like, and let me make a meal for you first, and then you can tell me to add more salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic. You know, don't just come in thinking that you already know. So I try not to take that approach with that work. I try to very much be the humble student, learning what I can before I make any type of statements that end up with my foot in my mouth. Just try to ask more questions than, making statements. So,
Well, and
yeah.
I love what you're saying about how to just deeply listen and be present so that you can, hear what the needs are of someone else and what wants to come forward. And I would imagine, that is what needs to happen when you're, creating poetry or songs, or you're on stage. You have to deeply listen within you to be able to be a creative and allow that inspiration to come through. And I love this idea about being your own muse, and because so often we look outside of ourselves for that
Mhm.
inspiration and compare ourselves to other people's lives. But how do you look inward for that inspiration, and look at your own life for that?
Well, when I was in my 20s, it took a lot of Jack Daniels. Did we meet at a bar? I think that was.
We did meet at a bar.
I couldn't remember if it was at the makeup counter or at a bar, but it doesn't
I
matter.
was trying to think of that. It was one or the other, but they were
Yeah.
close together.
Exactly. So, and everybody's journey is different. And my journey is uniquely mine, just like yours is uniquely yours. But from a young age, and I would say, and I call 22 young because you don't really know anything, right? At 22, you think you do, but you don't know anything. And I apologize to all my 22-year-olds out there listening, but you don't know anything.
Well, I'm always apologizing to my 22-year-old self. So,
I mean, my 22-year-old self, she was bad. She was fierce. She was unapologetic, and had this need to go deeper spiritually, emotionally, and do the work, recognizing that her upbringing was not what she needed. Her mother did the best that she could do, but it wasn't enough. So at 22, 23, I decided I had to learn how to be my own mother. I had to give myself and pour into me those things that my mother never did. And luckily for me, I had other mothers that adopted me and poured that kind of love into me. So I had an inkling of what it looked like. And what it ended up really being was that they were so gentle with me. They never told me I was stupid for thinking something that maybe didn't have all the foresight that they had because of their experience, but they never told me I was stupid. They never told me I couldn't do something. They always encouraged me and supported me and loved me even when I made the biggest mistakes. And so learning how to do that for yourself is difficult because we are our own worst critics. And we beat I have a PhD in beating myself up.
I can relate.
Yes, I'm sure there are many women out there who can. And it's partially learned behavior because I think like middle school does that to you a lot. That's that hormonal thing. But if you don't overcome that, it can lead to depression and bad relationships and just not taking care of yourself and not allowing that inner creative spirit to come out and to create what you are meant to create in the world. I feel like everyone, because we come from a divine creator, has that creative spark within us. So for some of us, it's cooking, some of us, it's sewing, some of us, it's the arts, some of us, it's being on a radio show, some of us is creating in the garden, creating more life, right? So there's not one person alive, in my opinion, that can say that they've never created anything in their life.
And I love how you point out that we are all creative. We just have different ways of expressing our creativity. And so it doesn't have to be in the form of a song or poetry. It can be like you said, cooking or gardening or, I don't know, coloring. I love to color still as an adult.
My mom colors all the time.
Yeah. And so it's just, let yourself be creative and let that come through the way that it's meant to. And I want to talk more about that. But before we do, at such a young age, you recognize that you needed to be your own mother, which is huge insight to have at that young age, especially when we think we know everything, but we really don't. But you had this guidance from within you saying, okay, I need to offer myself more. And you had beautiful role models showing you how. But how do you think that you made that bridge between what your adopted mamas were showing you and then actually giving that to yourself?
I read a lot of books. Hands down. That is the only, I've never been one to read other people's poetry or fiction because I feel like I live in a fantasy world. So I don't need to add that. But so I just started reading like all of the Wayne Dyer books. I started reading Marianne Williamson. I started reading Iyanla Vanzant. I just went through like the entire self-help section of every library and bookstore. And there were some things that were just garbage for me. Some things, I'm so sorry for all of you who love The Secret. I read this book and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is like spiritual kindergarten. Like, I can't believe that the vibration of the world is so low that this is mind blowing, right? So some of it, again, I was like, okay, this is not for me, but you can always find something in what you read, even if it's just that you disagree.
Yeah, and it spurs, self-inquiry and and it gives you contrast so that you can sort out what you believe in. And The Secret is one of those books that I think came out and it did show the level of consciousness that we were at as a collective, and that's what we could digest at that moment in time. But there was a lot of missing pieces in that, and I think once we absorb that one piece, then perhaps we're ready to be shared some more wisdom so that we can digest that. And I do hope that we are at a level, I know we don't necessarily feel like it right now, that we are rising in our level of consciousness, even through these challenging times.
Yeah.
So that we're ready for more information to come in that we can actually digest, because we can't take it all in at once, because we could probably read Wayne Dyer, all of his books over and over and over again and still get something out of it. Yeah.
Which I do. One thing I think it was in You'll Believe It When You See It, or one of the earlier books. He said, you can't have a nervous breakdown because nerves don't break. I was like,
mind blowing.
Wow. For a 24-year-old or 22-year-old or whatever I was at that moment when I read that was absolutely incredible. And so now at 50, I'm proud to say, I know nerves don't break. I got it. I also, didn't get that memo that it was okay for me to do that. There also is that shift of from youth into womanhood, and then womanhood into motherhood, where I don't have time to have a nervous breakdown. If I go down, the whole ship goes down. This is like the Titanic. So I need to get it together. So I think that for my journey, part of doing all of that emotional, spiritual work on the front end was so that I could be as strong as I needed to be for right now.
Yes. And so for everyone that's listening, that's, of a younger generation, don't wait. Like, now is the time to dive in and do that deep inner work, because it is the foundation that you can stand on that's going to be really super strong for you when more challenging times come. And the thing is that, we think we have it so difficult when we're younger, but it is true, for me at least, that when we get older, there's just more responsibilities and things that we have to manage. So we need that strong foundation that we can stand on, so that, the whole ship doesn't go down.
Well, and also, to give your children what you didn't have.
Yeah.
My daughter's had a gratitude journal since she was 4. I
Wow.
would write in it for her when she could, because she couldn't read and write yet. And then she'll go back, and I'll go back sometimes and look at it, like those early entries. And, it's like, what are you thankful for today? And she said, I'm thankful that I have panties. Because she wasn't in a pull-up, right? Like, that was her perspective. That was, where she was. And usually I made the cut too. She was thankful for mommy, but some days I didn't.
Was that your entry?
No, I swear it wasn't me. I swear it wasn't me. But I imagine, what if I had a gratitude journal at 4 and kept that practice up throughout my teenage years? What if I had a mother that understood the world the way I understand it and could be more of a calming force for me, and more of a grounding force for me, a true home base, so that no matter what happened, I knew that I could come to this one person who would help me reset if I couldn't reset myself.
Yeah. And it's that power, that practice of gratitude, because it is a practice. Because if you're not practicing it and you're allowing the world to teach you, then you're going to be taught how to be fearful
and hateful.
And hateful. Yeah, it's true. Like, fearful and hateful, because the hate comes from fear. But if you learn and practice wherever you are, just because you're not 4 years old right now, and you can start at 50 and start that gratitude and build that strength. Because like, you go to the gym, you don't go to the gym and look at that 100-pound weight and be like, oh, I'm going to lift that today. Like, no, you're going to start over there with the piddly widdly 5 pounds.
What's a gym?
Oh, what's a gym? Yeah. That could be another show we could talk about, Richelle. Like, how to get you back to the gym. No. But yeah, just building that strength, and we can do it at any age, and it's important to do it at every age. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the biggest lesson that I've learned in my life is that it's okay to reset. There's no shame in resetting yourself and saying, you know what, let me start over. And today is just as good a day as any.
Yeah, the reset button. And, I love to just give yourself permission to reset, because sometimes we realize that, the trajectory I'm going, I thought that's where I wanted to go. And now I'm realizing I need to go another direction, because that one is headed for the cliff.
Yeah. And sometimes, you need to head to the cliff, because it'll, scare you into going, the other direction, which is usually the one that you fight the most is the one that you're probably supposed to be going down.
Yeah. The biggest spiritual lesson. Yeah. So I cannot believe that we're already at our first break. I knew this was going to go so fast with you today, Richelle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a brief break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with Richelle and dive in a little bit more to how to become your own muse, and a little bit more about Richelle and her story. So I can't wait to come back. So don't go anywhere.
All right, awesome. Good job. All clear. Back in just about 2.
Thank you. Thank you too. That's my theater training.
What was that?
Thank you too. The stage manager will always come to the back and say, we go back in 5. You always say, thank you, 5, acknowledging that you heard the time.
Okay. And also remember, you only got 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Don't be dawdling. Yeah. Yeah. So good so far. So easy to talk.
Oh, thank you. Did you get any questions beforehand? I did ask people to send them in, but I don't know that you got any.
I did not see any. So
Okay.
I think people are still getting used to using emailing them in.
Hmm.
We could always open it up to some live callers if you want today.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. I haven't done that yet because I'm terrified.
As am I. I watch too much Law and Order and stuff. I can't.
Well, and I hate to say this, but I'll say this to my Facebook group, which is all women, that when you have a show dedicated to women thriving, when you open up the calls, you don't know who you're going to get. And and when we've had a couple callers want to come on, they've always been men. And I'm like, which is not to say I wouldn't have to, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's interesting how it creates fear in me because am I going to be attacked again?
Right.
Or is this a troller?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, more of that conditioning. If you have too loud of a voice, someone's going to say something. And then I can't be responsible for what my response is going to be.
Girl,
10
you
seconds.
already know. We go back too far.
Here we go.
You're listening to Women Thriving Unapologetically with Lynsie McKeown. Have a question for Lynsie or her guests? Want to share your story? Email Lynsie at thrivingunapologetically@gmail.com. That's thrivingunapologetically@gmail.com. Now back to the show. Here again is Lynsie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Women Thriving Unapologetically, and me, your host, Lynsie McKeown. I am here today with the lovely Richelle Claiborne, and we're talking about how to become your own muse, to really draw from your own life, to share your story, your voice, and your power. So I would really love to dive into that a little bit more deeply, Richelle, because you undoubtedly have one of the most powerful voices I have ever heard.
It's just loud.
No, it is not just loud. It is loud, but it is beautifully loud and powerful, because whatever you have to say, whether it's in your original poetry or your stage performances, your singing voice, your one-on-one conversations, you just resonate deeply. I mean, like every time I hear you, my heart just resonates so much with your work and your voice. And we are living in a unique time in history where we, as women, feel that our voices are being compromised by a few. And so what advice could you offer our listeners? Like, how can you stay connected to the power of your voice?
So I knew you were going to ask me this question. And I wrote down my 3-point platform.
Oh. Okay, let's hear number one.
Yes. So number one is you have to be open to yourself. You cannot tell the same story that you've been told or you've been telling yourself over and over again and just regurgitating the lies and the false truths that we tell ourselves. You have to really be able to connect to yourself and be open to whatever that is. It may bring tears, it may bring anger. It's not always going to be unicorns and puppies and rainbows, right? And generally, because 99% of people have been through something in their lives, that's what you hit first, and you have to kind of push through some of that emotional baggage to get to the crux of who you really are. And that brings me to step number 2, which is you really have to commit to the process. So you can't say you're going to do it and then get distracted by TikTok or, take that phone call. I mean, we do it. I'm addicted to redecor. And I'm designing stuff in the morning before I get in the shower. It's terrible. My husband gets so mad. But you really do have to commit to the process. And if that means you have to carve out an hour a day to do this work, or an hour a week, or 15 minutes every morning just to meditate, then you commit to that and you do it. And then the last piece is to know your own worth. Know that you are uniquely you. There's no other you in this world. Even if you are a twin, you are still you. And so your unique perspective, your unique experience, your unique makeup, both emotionally and spiritually, is something that only you can express in whatever way you find is best to express it. The end.
And I can see how these build on one another because, to be open means to also be very vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of work that has to happen in order for us to feel safe enough, because there has to be a sense of safety in order for us to open ourselves up to vulnerability, which we inherently think is unsafe, but it's actually where our power lies. That power that actually will drive the commitment to the work. And, it can't be, here and there. Really, there has to be some consistency to it, because it's like drilling a well. If you just drill, an inch every month, you don't get very far, but every day you start to have that deep well that you can pull from for that inspiration, and also to tap into your worthiness. I mean, because, if you don't have the self-worth, then your life is dictated by a lot of habits and patterns that will take you in directions that you really don't want to go.
Yeah, I like to use like the checking account analogy, right? All of this is putting money into that checking account. You're building up your emotional finances. And then when you need to make a withdrawal, you have it there already stored up. So that's where I get the inspiration for my poems, for songs, for, ideas to write about when it comes to plays or prose or anything. That kind of emotional bank that I've been building over the years.
I absolutely love that analogy. Like, have that wealth right there that you can pull from at any point in time that you need it. And that is like, we always are looking for the actual money, the physical money in our bank. But it is really that emotional worth that is priceless.
Well, and especially as an actor, like I can't count the number of times that I've had to draw on my own experiences and translate that into something for a character. When I did an adaptation of Macbeth at the Jeff School, I played Lady Macbeth, and we called it Black Mac because it was an all Black cast, and it was done in the African aesthetic. And there's the scene at the end, my last scene as Lady Macbeth, where, I've lost my mind, and, there's like the ghost of this child, that I'm talking to. And in my own personal life, I have lost a child. So, I lost him at 5.5 months pregnancy. So that's not, like there was a bond, there was a connection. So I had to go back to that. And every day that we had a performance, I had given myself permission to go to that place of pain, that place of hurt. But I never fully committed until the very last show. I was like, okay, this is the last opportunity. And after I did that, not only was it like the best performance I had ever given of that for that character, but there was such a relief and release. It was so cathartic. And this had happened decades prior. Like I had no idea that I was still carrying it so fresh until I really and truly allowed myself to be open. So yeah, it's definitely
goosebumps
powerful.
listening to this, like, just hearing you, because I remember that performance. I remember going and watching you and just feeling how powerful that performance was, but hearing the story behind it, I'm just, I literally have goosebumps right now just to hear how just giving yourself permission to go to the pain so that you can actually pull from it, that there is something that you can pull from, and also just allow it to have presence so that it can heal some more.
Well, and I took that pain and made it into something beautiful.
Yes.
Right? Like, how cool are we as human beings that this is something that we can do? Birds can't do that.
They might have bird poetry out there, their songs and
whatever. Whatever.
Yeah. And so that's how you become your own muse, is like you
Mhm.
really tap in, be open, and allow yourself to be vulnerable and tap into those stories. Because even though there's many women out there who have had similar experiences, it's still uniquely yours, and your perspective on it, the emotions that you have behind it, and your particular voice and the way that you express it is powerful.
I mean,
And
how many nonprofits are started because someone had a horrific experience and wanted to change the world,
Mhm.
right? That's a creative use of pain, like a poem or a song on a stage. So, if you let your pain make you stagnant and keep you from moving, then the pain wins. If you use it to fuel whatever passion you have, then you win. And I'm all about being a winner.
Yes, you are. And I love, so let me ask you this. If we're not an actress or a poet or a songwriter, how can we use our pain and our day-to-day life to bring forward something really beautiful?
Sometimes, and I know it sounds so cheesy, but sometimes it's just the interactions that you have with other people. You being the example of how to move forward, sharing your story, um, helping someone who's having a hard time going through something similar, just giving your perspective. It's that easy. It really is. I'm a Scorpio, so people come up and tell me their life story all the time. But this is happening my whole life. Sometimes I'm like, why? Why me? But I do find that when especially strangers come up to me and they share something so deeply personal, it's usually because I have a similar story, or I know someone who's been through something, and I can, if I can't relate to them, I can at least empathize and give them encouraging words or a piece of information that they didn't have already to help their situation.
Like
And
they're
that's,
at that first step, they're being open and vulnerable with
yeah,
you.
exactly.
And you recognize that and can support them in that moment.
And I think we all have those moments. We just choose to shrug them. How many times have you run into someone in the grocery store and just started up a conversation, about where the cheese is?
Instead of your deep well of emotional pain.
Exactly. But we're people who want to be connected to other people, right? So just even that conversation about cheese is a connection that you've made with someone in a grocery store, and it felt great, and then you went away. But we do this all the time, and sometimes it's meaningless unless that person just really needed cheese. And then the other times it is more powerful and
Well, maybe what
personal.
if we looked at all of those interactions as meaningful? I mean, not that we have to look for a spiritual message in the cheese, but
It makes your body work. That's all I know. I love cheese.
but like not brush off those daily encounters that say, hey, just by having this brief conversation that seems like it's meaningless might have actually touched that person because they were really feeling that wellspring of pain coming up, but they just needed to connect with someone
Mm-hmm.
and let them and have a random conversation.
And that's my point exactly. I mean, I can't tell you how many times working in cosmetics over the years, I had an interaction with someone and then they came back to the counter and thanked me because they just needed to talk that day, or that lipstick color just brightened up their whole day and they felt so good about themselves. Or I'll never forget this sweet one. She was like 80, going on a first date with this 80-something-year-old man. It was like the cutest story ever. And I was like, well, what are you gonna do? She said, well, he's gonna take me out to dinner, and if he doesn't pay, there won't be a second date.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
But then she came back and she told me that he did pay, and she thanked me for the makeup. And she said, I think I may have found, my end of life partner. I was
Oh,
like, oh my gosh. And at 30, I didn't quite get it the way that I get it now. But that was just a beautiful thing. And all I was doing was my job. but it meant
Well,
so
and
much
not
to
just your
her.
job as, a makeup artist, but your job as a human being, like really listening and being
Hmm.
present to someone. And that was 20 years ago, and you still remember that story. And
Still remember her face. I can see it to this day.
those powerful, powerful connections. And I think it's so important just to really reiterate that, because these small connections can be incredibly powerful. And then it makes us not, for me personally, I feel like when I have these small conversations and connections, I feel like my cup becomes more full, and I'm not looking outside of myself for something really big and fancy and shiny. It's
Mhm.
all those little moments that really feed and enrich my life and create a little paragraph for each chapter that I want to write one day.
Yes, you can start that today. Um,
Okay.
but also,
No
it
pressure.
goes back to that gratitude though,
Mhm.
right? So really being thankful for those moments too, that even if you didn't see the value for you personally, that you maybe touched somebody else's life and that but you were a blessing to them. Blessings come in all shapes and sizes and forms. So you never know when you are going to be a blessing to someone else and when someone else is going to be a blessing to you.
And sometimes, and there's so many moments that I have had where I have felt like, oh, I'm not reaching anyone. I'm not, I was really down on myself. I would get an email or run into someone and they would share how much something I said or did touched their life. And I was,
Hmm.
oh,
Hmm.
wow. And not that, we all have egos, but not that I needed my ego to be stroked, but it was one of those moments that I needed my eyes to be open.
Hmm.
And to have someone share that was really, really beautiful. And it's always encourages me to go out and say, send a card, snail mail. Like you can still do that, people, like,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and getting a card in the mail, or sending a voice memo when someone, face pops into my head, and I'll just send them something. I'm thinking about you. I think you're amazing. Or I think that strengthens our bonds and also strengthens us.
Well, I completely agree. And for years, if I have seen a woman just walking down the street and I think she looks fabulous, I say, "Excuse me, ma'am, if no one told you this, you look amazing today." Or, "I love your haircut. It's so sassy, girl work," right? Because we are so quick to tear each other down and we don't spend enough time just recognizing something that is already perfect and flawless,
Mm.
which we all are in all of our imperfections, right? We are perfect. So I've always felt that that was important to do. And it's so cute to see my daughter doing that with her friends,
Oh, it's
right?
wonderful.
Setting that example. And I mean, they're all weird, so I don't know. Like, they speak like a whole different language. What is it with these kids? Have I just gotten old? Is that what happened? I think
I won't
so.
say that you have gotten old, but I do believe that our parents probably thought the same things about us. Just
Oh my gosh, I remember like rolling my eyes because my mom couldn't program the VCR, and now my daughter is rolling her eyes because I'm like, show me how to do this thing on my phone.
yep, there it is, right
as my
there.
husband, as my husband would say, it ain't so fun when the rabbit got the gun.
I'm not even sure what that means, but I'm laughing. You're laughing.
You don't know Elmer Fudd and Bugs
Oh,
Bunny?
okay. I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are the same age. So we are up to our second break already. So
What?
this
How'd that
I
happen?
know it's crazy. So this is the last break of the show, but stick around because I have a lot more questions for you, Richelle, and I'm really hoping you're going to share one of your poems with us. So
Yes.
not only are her poems powerful, but the way she presents them is amazing. So no pressure for you, Richelle. Not that you would succumb to that anyways. But we will be back shortly after this break with Richelle Claiborne.
All right, another good segment. All clear.
Thank you, Claire.
So, is there anything that you want, like anything that you want to share in the last segment of the show to make sure to get out besides, reciting a poem or is there a message that you want to make sure that we relay?
Oh, no.
What you want to say, Richelle?
I don't know. I feel like I'm already saying it. I mean, I think we just let it flow. I think it's fine. There's no like one big message. I gave my platform. That was big for me because I'm not usually that organized.
Oh my goodness, swallowed wrong.
You okay?
Yeah, that's why I never take a sip on air because I'm afraid of that happening.
Well, it seems like that's probably the way to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Woo. Take a deep breath. Woo, you're okay.
I know. I'm a little sweaty. Okay.
Me too.
So,
this room I'm in is kind of hot.
yeah. So I get to listen to your poem for the first time. And
Yes.
And there was one question. What was it this morning when I was meditating that came up, and I was like, I'll remember it. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Story of my life.
We're talking about, how we be our own muse, but you've talked a little bit about some, like Wayne Dyer inspiring you, but I'd love to maybe hear about the greatest wisdom that you've ever received from someone else, or even from your inner your inner guides, and maybe even some rituals that you have to help you stay connected to inspiration.
That's a difficult
10 seconds.
Did you say 10 or 30?
You're listening to Women Thriving Unapologetically with Lynsie McKeown. Have a question for Lynsie or her guests? Want to share your story? Email Lynsie at thrivingunapologetically@gmail.com. That's thrivingunapologetically@gmail.com. Now back to the show. Here again is Lynsie.
Welcome back to Women Thriving Unapologetically. We are honored to be having an amazing conversation with Richelle Claiborne. And before we went to break, we were talking about how to stay connected to your voice. The 3-step process that Richelle shared was to be open and to be committed and to know your worth. And so as we come back, I just want to dive right in and see if you'll share one of your poems with us. And I believe you said the inspiration for this one was your daughter.
Yeah, this is actually Cheyenne poem number 5. There were 4 more before this one. I'm so clever when I come up with my titles. So I'll just give a little background about why I came up with this. We went to the river, and I'm an Iyawo in Ifa, which is a priestess in training. And my Orisha is Oshun, and she's the energy of the river. So weekly, I go to the river to make offerings, to just sit, to be with that energy. And this was one time that my daughter went with me, and I was inspired by our experience there. So this is that poem. I took you to the river, both in our whites, chocolate skin grabbing sunbeams and just showing off. You don't have ilekes yet, so you wore your love beads, and I wrapped your head in your muzzy. You'd never made an offering before, so proud to be so grown up in your spirituality. You look like me, and it's beautiful. I want to give you what I never found in church. The closest thing to this was when we had a drummer for a revival, and the rhythm seemed to speak from the middle passage, drowning out the singing and the shouting. I want to teach you what I didn't know about power and femininity, not at 8, like the difference between sexuality and sensuality, between love and desire, between respect and fear, between wanting and needing, that prayer was asking for food and faith was setting the table. No one told me I could have conversations with those who could no longer speak, that my words could influence forces of nature, that I myself was a force to be respected and honored, that the river could not only wash away, but be an instrument of manifestation, that my daydreams were oftentimes visions and the magic of God was inside of me. So I took you to the river to show you how to access your Black girl magic, to connect you to what protects you, protects us both. I took you to the river to introduce you to yourself.
Mm. I just got to take a deep breath in. I know it's not good to have silence on the air, but I feel like that poem just needs a moment, a pause to really soak that in. It's incredibly powerful and beautiful, which I knew it would be. This is the first time I've heard this one. And I think all the mamas out there, I mean, I'm not a mother and it's resonating with deeply within me, this just thinking about sharing the difference and teaching the difference between sexuality and sensuality, to know your own power and your own worth, and that you are that river of femininity is so beautiful.
Well, and it's like what we talked about before, you know, being your own mother. You may not have children, but this is part of you mothering yourself, you know, recognizing these things within yourself. That's why I think it resonates with people, even if they're, if they haven't become mothers yet.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, how would you define the difference between sensuality and sexuality?
Well, sexuality is really about the act, right? It's really about not the lure, not the feminine grace that sensuality is about, but it is about attracting for that purpose. And sensuality for me, because I'm using feminine here. Apologies to my non-binary friends. But the sensuality piece is really more about the dance of attraction, about the dance of intrigue between partners, it's not necessarily even about a partner. It could be just about you loving yourself. And that very gentle yet soothing way that sensuality can be. So that's how I would.
And, oftentimes when I hear your poetry there, I can sense that dance of sensuality between you and your inspiration.
Thank you.
There's this beautiful, sometimes the dance is pretty rough and
sometimes it's more like crunking and sometimes it's more of a waltz.
Sometimes it's just this delicate, if you think of all the different forms a river takes, it can be a raging river where a dam has broken, or it can be this slow meandering stream that just kind of lulls you. So you have all of that in you. And I just appreciate you sharing one of your many creations that have come from that dance.
Thank you.
And with, we've been talking about how to become your own muse, but, we still need inspiration from others for sure. Obviously, from our inner inspiration is important, but, and you received inspiration from your adopted moms, how to be your own mother and caretaker. But is there anyone else out there that you feel has been really just giving you like a piece of advice that has really landed and stuck with you?
I have so many teachers in my life, and I'm so blessed and thankful for all of them. And at different stages of my life, different people have meant different things. But my one auntie, mother, sister, friend said something not to me about me, but to me about someone else who, we couldn't understand why this person was acting in the way that they were acting. And she said, you shouldn't try to steal what you already have. And that just stuck with me. And because I think we feel that we're not enough. So we're always trying to get more, to make us feel better, to get more of things externally and internally, to make us feel like we are more than we were 5 minutes ago. But in actuality, it's always been there. It's always there. We just have to tap into it. So that feeling of enoughness, that feeling of being worthy, that feeling of having what you need is there. Another thing that comes to mind is what you think about expands.
Yes.
So if you constantly are in a lack mindset, you will have less. That's why we practice the gratitude journal, right? If you are thankful and grateful for all that you have, all of your blessings, then more blessings will come. So that one I know in particular has been powerful. And then one of my favorite things to say, my daughter hates it when I say it because she knows that it's time for her to do something, is many hands make light work.
Yes.
So,
get your hands over here.
Get your hands over here, girl. Clean up that room, empty that dishwasher, get that load of clothes going. But if you think about it in a community sense, right? Like if there's something that is going on in your community and you feel like you need to change it, many hands will make that work lighter. If you've got the idea, somebody else may have a missing piece for funding, and someone else may have the missing piece to get actual physical labor going to help move the project along, whatever it is.
And then you don't, we forget that because we, our society kind of breeds us to think that, we have to do everything on our own because that will prove our worth. And the more that we do on our own, the more accolades we'll get. But all we're doing, what we're getting more of is more exhaustion and depletion and separation. And if we do come together with those many hands, we can realize that all of our visions can come into fruition. And it's not serving just one, it's serving the many.
Exactly.
And I just love, and then that feeds into like, okay, you can't steal anything that you don't already have. Like we can come together in community and serve one another from that place of wholeness and that place of self-worth, instead of that fear or lack, or that someone might steal my idea or they'll get all the credit. Instead, just be like, okay, I'm showing up and I'm here to be of service. And in that, amazing things can happen.
Yeah, and service is really the key. This goes back to the beginning of the show with the Haven, right? Like, what can you do to be of service to your friends, your partner, your children, your community? What can you do? Because we are not, the Justin Timberlakes of the world. Like when we cross over to the other side, the value and the worthiness of our life's work will be in the memories of those who loved us.
Yes.
So what memories are you creating? What memories are your children going to have of you? Is it that you were always tired and burnt out and never had time to play with them? Or is it that you loved them so fully in the time that you did have because you worked a lot to put food on the table, right? Like that's your choice.
And it comes back to what you said, that what you're teaching them is what they're going to carry and recreate for their own lives. If you're showing up exhausted and overwhelmed and not fully present, then they're going to learn, oh, that's what I need to do when I'm an adult. But you're teaching, hey, like gratitude, let's, come together. Let's be of service. Let's go to the river and do this beautiful ritual, and instilling that so that becomes the memory that will feed their adult lives. And that's how we see the bigger changes that we want to see. Absolutely.
I say all the time, I'm standing on, the backs of my ancestors, and I am their wildest dreams come true. So, the fact that, we live in this time where I can talk to you on a video screen, 200 years ago, people called us witches and burned us at the stake.
They still call us witches and burn us in other ways.
Yes, that's true.
That's another conversation.
That's the next show. Um, but the fact that we are living in this time where we have this abundance of resources and we can do amazing things. If we don't take the opportunity to be of service and to make those changes in the world, we've let down all of our ancestors and we have no future.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave, and I don't want my child to inherit a planet that's unlivable.
Yeah.
I don't want my child to inherit a mindset that is destructive.
Yes. We forget about that piece. Yes. Because it's the mindset that will determine what we do and the actions that we're taking. So we have to have the mindset that will lead to the solutions that will create a world that is livable.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to my platform, open yourself up, be vulnerable. Think about the ways that you have maybe not been as kind to the earth or yourself or your family or whomever, and make those changes and then really commit to making those changes. And then know that that is only adding to that emotional and spiritual piggy bank.
Yeah. Well, thank you for wrapping that all up. I mean, because we're at the end of the show.
Aw, this was fun. Thanks for having me.
I know. It's just incredible. And yes, next show, we will definitely have you back on if you're willing. And so for those of you that are listening, just continue to join us every week on Voice America's Empowerment Channel. You're listening to Women Thriving Unapologetically. And I'm your host, Lynsie McKeown, and we are live every Thursday at 7 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Eastern. And this is Richelle Claiborne, and you can find her at RichelleClaiborne.com, as well as on Instagram at _Richelle_show, The Richelle Show, which is a phenomenal show. I hope you bring that back again. But so with that in mind, go out there, be open, be committed, and know your worth, because you can't steal something you already have. Thank you so much, Richelle. Love you.
Thank you, Lynsie. Love you too.
All right, terrific job today. Good show. We're all clear.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Gabe. His voice is very soothing.
All right, you're welcome. Thank
Gabe, you
Have a
should have
good
your
one.
own show.
Yeah, Gabe, you should have your own show. I'd listen.
Oh, that's very kind. I don't know if I'd have much to say though. I'm a pretty.
You know
boring
what
person.
you should do? You should do a show where you just read children's bedtime stories and put them to sleep.
Awesome. I'll think about that.
Thank you, Gabe.
All right, appreciate it. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
So we'll just bump ourselves over to our Facebook group and see if I look through the Facebook feed and see if there's any questions. We got lots of comments. I'm loving this conversation. You both have such great energy and infectious laughs. Thanks so much for this beautiful wisdom today that comes from Paula. And then we got
Paula.
Carolyn saying, I love the talking with others. I smile and chat wherever I am. You never know what what a kind word and recognize another person that could be the best part of their day. So
That's true.
it is so true. So, and someone's laughing about the secret.
It's funny.
It is, and I used to.
Thank you, Gabe.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Oops. Sorry. I turned my phone on to look at us because Facebook is behind.
Yeah, they are behind. But it's the secret was, I think, it was an important book or movie that came out, but it was missing so much. And it actually did a little bit of harm for me, because I was like, I was just like, okay, I'll just consciously think about what I want. And it never happened. And I look around and other people that were doing it they seem to be having success with it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I had so much stuff that I had to, go and uncover and heal, because my subconscious beliefs were really what was dictating what I was having in my life. And my subconscious beliefs were full of fear and anger. I mean, you remember me at that time when I had a little bit of anger.
I mean, I think it's fair to say we both have,
We
danced
had
with anger.
yeah, we had, yeah, that dance was interesting. Never got us in trouble at all.
No, no.
But I said, okay.
Allegedly.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
I was
So
like, we allegedly, may have
yeah,
done a few things, but there were no phone cameras back then, so there's no evidence.
I know. Thank God. Yeah. So like, okay, so here we are, and this time, if we really want the principles of the law of attraction to work, guess what? You got to clear up your shit. You got to
Mm-hmm.
really clean it up, because you can have all the conscious affirmations you want, which are a great redirect when you feel yourself going spiraling downward. But what is making you always spiral downward? It's
Right.
that. So let's look at that, and let's sort out what those beliefs are, so that you can be more in alignment and be able to consciously think about what you want, and it happen more easily. But people are just that. So that for me, it became this thing like, oh my God, I'm getting so frustrated. And then I would shame myself or shit on myself or should on myself,
Mm-hmm.
and be like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm doing something wrong, which was a deep, deep wounding in me. And
Mm-hmm.
so the secret actually, brought that wounding up really powerfully. So maybe that was a lesson that I needed to learn. Like, I didn't get what I wanted from the secret, but what it did give me was an opportunity to be like, okay, what am
Yeah,
I going to do with feelings?
I think what it did for me was just show me that, I was already on the right path.
Yeah.
I was like, this is, oh, people need this. Okay, well, that's good, because I'm already doing this. Things are already manifesting. And, I have a deep connection with my ancestors. And so, a lot of it for me was at that time was just going to them anyway, saying, help me, show me, guide me. And then things just kind of always fell into my lap. I'll never forget when I moved back to New Jersey the second time, my ex-boyfriend now, he would say, I don't understand, like these jobs, they just fall into your lap. And I said, I mean, kind of. I did put the intention out there, though, that I would receive them. So yeah, they did. But I never worried about it. I never worried about whether or not I was going to have work as a freelancer. I'm never worried about, I don't really worry now, even though I have a child. People say, oh my God, you're going to worry all the, I don't worry about her. She's fine. Like, can I protect her from every bump and bruise in life? No, absolutely not. I always say it's not, will your child need therapy? It's how much therapy will they need? And if I can keep her down to 1 day a week, I did a damn good job.
I love that. Like, it's not that your kid will not need therapy. It's how much she'll need.
Yeah. I mean, because listen, we all are different. And what I think she needs could be something that she is like, oh, my mom was so overbearing. And, she'll have to deal with however that plays out in her life. Or my mom did too much for me and she never let me stand on my own, which she can never say, but whatever. But she might, because it's her perspective and how she interprets our relationship and what I did. So yeah, I know that I'm not perfect. I just know that I'm the perfect mom for her, or else she wouldn't be here. So, if I can keep her down to 1 day a week as an adult, then I did a good job.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I'm not the perfect mom, but I know I'm the perfect mom for her, because there was this agreement somewhere in the ethers that this is the child for you and this is the mom for me. And there's something that I'm meant to get out of this relationship. So
Yeah.
beautiful perspective. Yeah.
I think a lot. I think a lot.
I do too. My partner is always like, she'll ask me a question. Like I have my motto. She's going to get me a shirt that says, just wait for it, because she asked me a question. The spiral starts where all the thoughts just start spinning and spinning. But I always tie it in with a pretty bow. It's just like, I was like, and so she just has to sit back and wait. Just wait for it. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
ask her
my
to get
mind is
2
gone.
shirts.
What's that?
Ask her to get 2 shirts.
Oh,
I
you
need
get
one
two
too.
shirts. Okay. Do we call ourselves like the twins or the Wonder Twins or
Wonder
something?
Twins. Yes,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
remember that. Yeah.
Pretty sure it was alcohol induced, but yeah, we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, we tried to pull that off. I mean, we look so alike.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at the 2 screens right now. I don't know which one is me, except, my name is on there.
It's that powerful, fiery presence. So is there anything that you want to share with our private Facebook group? Any words of wisdom that you want to leave everyone with?
Man, I am not wise. I just have had some experiences and am willing to be honest and open and share them. So my wisdom is your wisdom. Your wisdom is my wisdom. Like I said, we are all individually and uniquely us. And so if anything that I say has value to you, I'm glad and thank you for listening. I'm sure that there are plenty of things that your listeners and viewers could say that would have the same amount of value to me. So let's just keep sharing and being open and honest with ourselves.
Yes, I love that. Just be open and honest with ourselves, and then we can start to be open and honest with others. And that is what's going to create such, a strengthening of bonds. And when we feel connected to people and we don't feel separate from them, then guess what? We're not so afraid. We're like, oh, okay, this person has had a similar story to mine, or I don't understand her story, but I understand her pain.
Right.
I felt that myself. And then we're more of a community instead of these, little icebergs out there floating in isolation. And I'm trying to come up with a really cool analogy, but I'm falling short.
But, it's funny though, because if you think about even just our relationship, if we were walking down the street, people, unless we were talking to each other, people would look at us and not think that we even knew each other. But our ability to see past the external and to be open and honest with each other created a friendship that has lasted for decades. I think you said. I'm not claiming that, but
Not claiming the decades.
No, because then that means I'm really old.
Oh, you can't say that because then that means I'm really old, and I'm like, what did you say? You're timeless.
Yes, I am timeless in my mind. I keep saying it, like, so if I say it out loud enough, it'll really be true.
You are, and you say that your wisdom is our wisdom, but the experiences that you've had and the willingness to go in and be open and be vulnerable and stay committed to the inner work and to claim your self-worth, that in itself is wisdom that you reconnect to. You're just tapping back into that wisdom and staying connected to your ancestors. You pull from that well of wisdom. So it's the wisdom of our ancestors that are coming through you. And when you offer that to someone else, that is something to share of great, great value. So I really greatly appreciate you, Richelle, because you are a phenomenal human being, and so much love for you.
Oh, thank you. I got nothing but love for you too.
Okay.
Nothing but love.
Well, then I look forward to the Richelle Show number 2.
Yes. Yes. Book the date. Have your people call my people.
Okay.
Which just means we'll text each other later.
Pretty much, yeah. Which I prefer anyways.
Exactly.
Okay, my love. I will
All right.
be in touch soon.
All right. Thanks,
Here.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.